Hi and welcome to episode 21 of Every Semicolon. I just deleted the first 14 minutes or so of 21. I was just recording it, and of course, it's been, and I apologise that it's been so long. It's been a month and a bit since I did the last episode 20. So that long between the last episode and now is ridiculous, and I apologise for that. But of course, I start doing this episode, and I've never seen this before, but some trucks pulled up outside and started doing roadworks, and they're still there. They're probably going to make more noise, and if they do, I'll pause until the noise goes away. Just hilarious coincidence. But I noticed that it'd been going for 14 minutes, and I've just been rambling, and that just seemed like too long for me. So basically, what I was thinking about this episode was I started it without really knowing what I was going to do. And then I started thinking about, okay, I've been looking at some stuff. Racketeer, I think, is out now on Xbox 360. It's a Kinect game on Xbox Live Arcade, I believe. So it's sort of similar to this in a lot of ways. You have a ballista, and I'd never seen Racketeer before I started this game. Just saying, but it's not really. It's similar in a lot of ways. You destroy castles with, I think, like goblins in them or something. But yeah, it's quite different. The castles are built of a very large. And here comes the truck noise. We'll just ignore it for a bit. So you destroy large segments of the castle, it's not built out of blocks like Angry Birds or this. So in that, I noticed that when the level starts, very sort of typical fly around of the level, showing you, I guess, what's in the level, maybe any secrets, or just give you an idea of where to hit. It gives you a different perspective that you don't get from the behind the ballista perspective of Racketeer or this. And so I think we should do something similar or the same for this, obviously. So what I was thinking for that is some sort of path system, so we can put down nodes and then have a sort of curve, a bezier curve, for example, between them. And I think pronunciation is bezier. For the word, it's spelled B-E-Z, or Z if you're American, B-E-Z-I-E-R. But I believe the pronunciation, it's probably French, is bezier. And so have some curves throughout those points for the camera to fly around, and it will either look at a certain point or something. So building some sort of path system, very useful, not just for that but for anything. So in this case the camera will follow it, but we could have other things follow it too, so I might do that this episode. The other thing I was talking about in my deleted 14 minutes is the idea of bringing the camera down to this sort of level permanently. So instead of doing this sort of thing and this sort of thing, where maybe it makes some sense from a gameplay perspective, and sure, that is the primary reason to make any call. I still think that the graphics are really starting. Things are looking nice, and things are going to keep looking nicer. I mean, we're still very, very early, and I'd love to see more animation, more character, and you're not going to see that from up here and out in the distance. So if we maybe kept this perspective just in the same spot all the time, maybe allowed some not to that extent, but just some basic zoom out and zoom in, perhaps, and you get the trajectory indicator when you play. Wow, this is the slowest game in the world. I apologize. Okay, okay. So this is way too far out. Way too far out. It's ridiculous. So let's pause it there. What I think we need is something like this. Just all the time this. And you get the, you can see where your thing's going. It doesn't really matter where the camera is. You can see where this intersects the geometry of the stuff you're aiming for. And what then I was thinking is maybe having some sort of system where there's a button, not unlike this deal now with how do I do right this thing now where I've got this little let me switch to one of these other guys. Right, well, can't see because of the clouds. Should change the color of this thing. We got this little thing here, which is sort of like a button. And this works quite well. Got no issue with it, but I think we can do better, right? So imagine instead that maybe it was like this. And we also need to do something about that. Anyway, it's like this sort of perspective, and this is a button, and you can see a sort of path for it. So what you can do is click on it and drag it around, and that will rotate this object around sort of the world y-axis, so it'll go left and right. But it's sort of a smiley face path for it, you can imagine. And then there'd be another button that has a path going like this, and perhaps you can then switch to an aiming mode, which is this one, and switch to a firing mode, which has another ball which has a path going back to change the power back and forth. Or maybe those all three are in the same mode. So that's sort of what I'm thinking now, and that way we can get to see our little guys doing their thing. All the nice graphics we got, dwarves, animation stuff. I think that's going to be necessary for just the graphical style and the character we want to go for. We got to actually get up there and up close and see everything. As long as we can get the controls, the aiming controls and everything, and the firing controls feeling good and just as good from that perspective, I think that's the way to go. And for the cannon, it doesn't have as much aiming. It's got the up and down, it's got left and right, but it doesn't have the power, so it'll just have a shoot button to a click to fire. And the different weapons have a different sort of zoom level. Trebuchet is a bigger thing, so you'll be further out from it. You'll be able to do all its things. So that's probably in the next video or video soon. I'll have a look at starting on those controls. But yeah, I think I'll do the path stuff, which will probably be used as well in the in this button movement. So I actually have some sort of bezier curve around here, and as I move the mouse, click and hold, move the mouse around, I can use Unity's distance point bezier, or bezier, to get the distance between a point and a bezier. So that way I can just find where it is in the thing on the curve, find the closest curve point to my cursor, and snap the button or the button ball thing to the curve at that point, and and then set the angle to whatever that point percentage is along the curve. So what I need to do is as you can see, then this is pretty much all the bezier stuff in Unity. So they have a draw bezier, which is useful for editor scripts or editor windows and tools, and they also have this distance point bezier, which is a very useful method as well. But they don't really have much in terms of just other things like setting something to a point along a curve, or just other sort of bezier functions. So I have probably a few different bezier utility classes I've written in the past for different projects, and what I've started doing is putting together my own I should have done this a long time ago, years ago, Southeast Games framework, which contains sort of all the generic utility classes and editor scripts and custom inspectors throughout different projects I've used. I've started to combine them all into one project, which I then export that out as a package, and that's sort of the basis of new projects. And just to give you another idea of why this has taken so long since the last video, I've worked on a number of contracts recently. There's a couple of contracts still ongoing. They'll be ongoing for a while, that I do just work in Unity for different companies on different things, primarily sort of simulation work, and also a number of game projects. And primarily the thing when I have spare time to work on my own projects, at the moment I'm working on asset store stuff. So there's the 2.0 update of Advanced Surface Shaders, which is the main thing I'm trying to get done. Because there's a lot of people, there's a number of people that bug me about, not bug me, and please don't consider it bugging me, that want more episodes of Every Semicolon, and absolutely understandable. I'd love to do more, and I will do more often. But the Advanced Surface Shader stuff is, people pay for that, and a lot of people want updates. Looking forward to the next update, and I've been working on it when I can, and it's almost done. So that's the main thing I've been focusing on when I have my own spare time. So there's that, and there's also there's actually 3 other asset store projects I'm working on, and one of them is, I'd say, about 70% complete, and it's really cool, and I'll definitely be incorporating it into this project as time goes on, once it's ready to go. So there's that, which will hopefully be, in a few weeks' time I'll be able to start posting about that on the Unity forum, and putting out some videos and stuff. Also, there's another one which is an even bigger one again, which will be a little while, but it's going to be special, and that'll probably get incorporated into this as well. There's updates to existing asset store stuff, the developer console, and the mesh particle renderer is actually something that a number of people use that use older versions of Unity, or like the legacy particle system better, and need mesh particles. So that's a asset store item I have out there, which there's some updates I need to do for that. And I've been doing some custom updates for people outside of the asset store stuff, so I need to incorporate those into the project on the store. And finally, there's some other game projects I'm working on. Shane and I are working on a different project, sort of not this one, just another one that we're starting to get going on, and that's pretty exciting. It's not really going to affect how much we work on this project, though. We'll still be doing this as much as possible, but it's sort of it's a different project that I'd love to start talking about once we get some more work done on that. And we'll probably look at Kickstarter for that one, because it's got an interesting appeal, I think, and to spend the amount of time we're going to need to spend on it to make it. At this point, time really is money. At this point, and we're not doing a full-time job. I need to make money to make all this worth doing. In the short term, I can't afford to make games without some sort of guarantee or some sort of profit in the meantime. So every semicolon works because it's not too often, just a few hours here and there. But to dedicate real time to a game project, that would be significantly detrimental to a contract work I could be doing, and therefore the income I could be making. So Kickstarter is really, and also there's good stuff on Kickstarter recently. Castle Story, you should check that out. It's a game I've been following since they sort of first posted about it. It's a Unity game. Actually has some similarities to this, Sky Islands. That's about it. But it's sort of Minecraft-y, RTS-y. They went on a Kickstarter, and they just massive amounts of money. I don't know. I'm not even sure how they got that much money, but ridiculous. So it's a great looking game. So well deserved. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I've got the Bezier curve script out of my Seg framework project. So it's got nothing. It's probably pretty crappy class, but it'll have what I need to get going. So what I'm going to do is start building a path system. So what it's going to be is game objects I place around, and there'll be a path component, and I'll drag the transforms into that, and then I'll link them up in the order that I put them into a list, I guess, is the go. And then there'll be curves I can put between them. So yeah, let's start doing this, and we'll just figure out exactly what we want to do. I'm going to make a different scene just for now, just to differentiate. We'll just sort of focus on focus on this path stuff. Well, okay. Actually, let's make a new thing. Go into scenes. I'll make a new folder called test scenes. Wow. And then we'll just call this path system. So it's going to make a basic path system, and there's probably tons on the asset store, and I could probably save some time by buying one, but that's not really how I roll. So So what I'm going to do is make a Shift Alt N, no, Shift Control Alt N, Control. Aha. Ah. What was my create child object? Shift Alt N. Right. So if there's no parent, it doesn't make one. That's kind of lame. Oh. So path. Drop that there. Okay. Shift Alt N. Shift Alt N. Yeah, that's not good. All right. This is point A. Point B, and I'll just do a point C. All right. We're not going to make this the greatest system in the world, but I think it'll do. Path, that'll do. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. Okay, we're going to make we'll call it waypoint path. Alright, and I've just installed 3.55, and that means serial number. I might block that out even though it's already got X's in it. Well, I'll make a note of that. Just give me 2 seconds to make a note of blanking out my serial number. 1635 odd. Right. So, yeah, so I was updated so I don't have my template script, which I really hate. I really wish Unity would just allow, it removes the old installation before it puts the new one on, but in so doing it removes your customized new behavior, or new, whatever they call it, new script template stuff. So frustrating, so frustrating. So now I'm going to have, the same sort of thing. Oh, look, it's line endings. Or maybe they've changed how the line endings work in the template, so that's something at least. Alright, anyway, so public. Actually, let's do it again for the millionth time. Okay, we go to our group. Where does it live? In here. Just going to go to my Unity folder, go into editor, drop into data, resources, script templates. So make a copy of the C# one, open it up. I'll open up in Visual Studio, and I'm just going to grab this, drop it in there, replace this with that. Alright, so now that should be my new sort of template. Wow, I need to do that too. I'm a bit rusty with this whole video game. Alright, so when I go to Unity now and make a new script, it should do, yeah, that. So that's what I'm after. It's a template these days. Okay, waypoint path, monitor behavior. Alright, what we need is, now we'll just do a public transform array called waypoints. And we'll put in I'm curious about something. About how Unity handles lists versus arrays. So we'll just do a quick test, just so I know. In the inspector is what I mean. Alright, so drop that in there. Okay, so we've got an array and we've got a list. Let's drop in A, B, C into both. Alright, so what I'm curious about is, obviously I can't move them around, which is frustrating. But can I delete? I can delete and it removes transform. What if I delete from the list? It removes transform. What if I click on the actual element? Delete. No. Delete. Shift delete. Ooh, hello. Shift delete. Okay. Shift delete. Delete delete. Shift delete. Okay. If you shift delete either an array or a list, it actually removes that element from the list in the inspector. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Alright, so that wasn't something, that was something I knew that you could do somehow. I'd done it before, but I wasn't sure exactly the steps. So shift delete. That's a cool little tidbit. I like the word tidbit. It's 2 words. 1 word? No words. Bezier curve should be in our that utility script we added. So this is a list list or an array. We'll do an array. We'll see how we go. Okay. Now hide that in the inspector, or instead do non-serialized, because I think from memory hide in inspector won't show it in debug mode, but non-serialized also doesn't. Never mind. But anyway, what am I doing? Okay. What are these? Enable. Righto. Waypoints and curves. So we need to create a curve for each waypoint. So create curves for waypoints. Alright, so I think we have a resize array uu.general resize array of type bezier curve ref curves waypoints.length. Alright, so that should be resizing our curves array to the waypoints length array of length. Do that first, and then we'll loop through and we'll go if curves I is equal to null, okay, vector 3s and handles, okay, that's fine. Okay. do is alright, well, might as well just waypoints dot so waypoints I position and the next waypoint, so let's do it like this. Previous waypoint pos equals so if the waypoint's array is 0 length, then we'll just set either way we'll do that, return, otherwise it's previous, and then right on. We'll make one called next. The next waypoint was if waypoints dot length is greater than whatever, either way, I plus 1 is greater than or equal to length. So if its length is 2 and I is 1, then I plus 1 is 2, it's greater than or equal to, it's all good, less than or equal to. So we want to do that in this case, set next to I plus 1 dot position, and we'll set previous to next. Okay. Point 1 and handle 1, handle 2. Now, how does this all go? Control points are local, it's free, okay. Local points, alright, CP1, oh, it's local. Direction between from that one to that one, CPU1 normalized, okay, negative CPU1. Alright, so what I'm doing there is the curve, a Bezier curve has sort of 2 points, and then this has 2 control points. So I'm just making it a straight line, so I'm getting just the direction from the second point to the first point, from the first point to the second point, and I'm normalizing that so that it's got a length of 1. So my first control point is 1 meter away from 1 unit away from the first point in the direction of the second, and I'm inverting that for the second control point, which is local to the second point, so it's pointing towards the first point 1 meter away from the second point. Previous waypoint position equals next waypoint position, so next time it goes through the loop, the previous one will be what was found as the next one, and then I'll find the next one, and so forth. Okay, that's all good. Where are we at? The other thing I might do is go else. If it's not null, I'm going to set p0 to previous. I'm going to set p1 to next. So what I'm doing there is, is that p1, p2? Let me just check what these are. Yeah, I should have changed these names. Anyway, not a big deal right now. So if I say deleted one halfway through the list or through the array, a waypoint, and it was resizing the curves, then I would want it to make sure that it pointed to the the real next waypoint, not a null reference to an old waypoint that it's deleted. So that's cool. So there's my curves. What I'm going to need to do is either place a transform at the position for the curve as the control point, which is probably, actually, that might be easier. Yeah, I might have gone about this a little bit wrong. It's a bugger. Okay. What I might want to do instead, I could create a gizmo and put it there and drag it around. But I think it's easier just to work with. It does have the line endings stuff. Oops. To fix that template up later. Yeah, so I think it's easiest to work with transforms when you're doing this sort of stuff, rather than make your own gizmos and use the editor utility transform gizmo thingamajigger. Yeah, so what I'll have to do is create a the waypoint path, which maybe will connect curves, and I'll create a waypoint curve class which will contain the 4 points, and then I'll link those up so that the end point connects to the first point of another curve. That will be what I'll do. Okay. Whoop. All right. Okay, and I'll just put in a on draw gizmos. Might just chuck in also a draw gizmos bool, and line color. How about say blue? Yeah, let's do red, something a bit different. Public color. Control point line color equals color dot blue cyan. And it's lines. Put in colors for white color, dunno, about black, and the control point color. gray. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go gizmos dot color equals point color dot, that's it, gizmos draw a sphere at start point dot position, the radius of point, I'll put gizmo point size radius a bit smaller. So quick check in here. Is valid method. It just goes if that is equal to null, return false. It's the same for the other four, otherwise return true. So if any of these aren't set, then is valid will return false. So if it's valid, return, don't draw anything. Or draw gizmos like that. And I'm not sure if we need to do this for gizmos, but I'll just store the previous color of the gizmos, set that back at the end. Okay, so draw the endpoint. Control points, draw a line, draw control point lines. Okay. Now drawing a bezier line requires multiple lines, or we can maybe use Unity's draw bezier method. It's a handles thing, so we'll have a look at that shortly. But for control points, we're just going to draw a straight line from the start point to the control point. Same again for the end. Yeah, we'll use handles dot. Oh, alright, this is where we need to. Okay, so I don't know if I've done this yet in this project, in these videos, and I'll definitely need to do it if I'm going to do a build at some point, because I've got some, I believe, some different classes using editor stuff. What will happen if you try to build when you're using? If I went, using Unity editor like that, in this waypoint curve script, and then went, alright, handles is accessible, so bezier it up, start point to end point with the curve data we'll have shortly. When I tried to build, none of this wouldn't compile, because handles is not accessible, because Unity editor is not accessible in the built application. As you'd expect, it's only accessible in the editor itself. But I only care about seeing this stuff in the editor. I don't want to see gizmos in the final built application. So, excuse me. What I'll do is go if Unity editor and put these sort of pre-processor defines around this. So what happens at compile time is it says, well, the platform I'm building to does not have Unity editor defined as true, or defined at all. this is basically an if-def sort of thing. So if Unity editor is true, defined, then do that code. Otherwise, don't do that code. Don't compile that code. So it doesn't even read this stuff. So I don't even need. I'm just going to put this around the entire thing. So none of this code will be looked at when the project is compiling, and you can see Visual Studio will do some highlighting based on what it knows as what's defined. So if I go to my Solution Explorer and go to probably the solution or the project, let's go to the project, or in first pass, C#, either one, properties, and go to okay. When the Visual Studio project is created by Unity, it looks like they put in all the conditional compilation symbols that it uses. So in this case, it's 355. So I can put in if 355, if 35, if Unity editor, and then there's all this other stuff here. So it's, they're enabling www and substance and cloth and whatnot. But that Unity editor won't be used when it's compiled, won't be defined. So it's also a good way of doing obviously stuff like if you want to have a script that handles multiple things. So you could say, well, if I'm on Unity iPhone or whatever the thing is, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but if it's iPhone or Android, then do this touch-based code. If it's the web, then do this different networking code or a web player. If it's this, do this. And you can have sort of this different branching code base that supports all different platforms, and you'll see that in some of my asset store stuff to support different platforms. Okay. So what we need to do now is I'm going to jump out here. Okay. Let's close that, open it up. Say yes, it's all good. We're going to undo all this. Just comment that out for the moment. We're going to replace this instead with not hitting that button, but again hitting buttons. Replace it with waypoint curve array. Like curves. Right, so if we go back into here, let's call this curve 1, rename this to CP1, CP2, go to the scene view, waypoint curve goes on there, we've got point A, point B, CP1, CP2. Now we're just going to move them around a bit. Okay. Now, I think that should actually be drawing, so let's have a look. Draw gizmos is true. If draw gizmos is false, or is valid as false, there's this equals null, return false, null, return false, blah blah blah. None of those are null, so it shouldn't return false. That should get down to here. It should start drawing some stuff on draw on graw. I think I've done that before. I think it's like a episode 4 mistake or something. I remember that happening a while ago. Anyway, here we have our different gizmos drawn. So we're not drawing the curve yet between the start and end points, but we can see the control points and a line from the control point to the other point it's on. So one thing that's useful to do in this situation is draw, because I've selected this guy. I want to be able to move the points without having to, first clicking on it would be good, and you can definitely, if I click on that, it'll select this guy. And if I had a control point script on this, then it would work for that if I was drawing the gizmo from there. So I wonder if there's something I could do about that. I'm sure there is, but what I'm saying is I'd like to be able to click on this and have it select the control point. But alternatively, what I can do is, actually I might just, rather than look through the scripting reference, I'll just have a look in the code. On GUI, perhaps, was it GUI or is it handles? It might be a handle thing. Let's have a look. Handles dot deposition handle. Okay. Returns a vector 3, got vector 3, continue. Right on. Let's go to, let's draw one for control point. Well, let's do a start point. Start point and start point dot rotation. Start point dot position. So what I should be able to do is set okay, so this should draw the typical style of position handle for each of these points, and allow me to move them around while I have the curve object selected. It's not Alright, we'll jump over to the scripting reference and see what's up. Do position handle would not result in any matches. Perhaps the do is the problem. Yeah, sometimes going through the IntelliSense sort of stuff as I just did then is not the best move, because you won't, it'll show you things that aren't necessarily supported fully. But it's still not working for us. Let's go scripting reference here. Position handle returns a vector 3. So their code example is handle, position handle, target, look at, blah, blah, blah. If GUI change, set 30 target. Ah, okay. Okay. That's cool. If GUI changed sounds like a thing. So they're doing that on scene GUI. On scene GUI. Maybe I should do it in there. That's an editor script though, isn't it? Forget that. Okay. Just test it out on the start point and see if that's going to help. Okay, that's moving. I need to move start point elsewhere. Nope, that's not. That's deselecting it. Maybe it doesn't work unless I'm using it inside an editor script. That's interesting. See how that it's getting highlighted yellow. 3805, that's the X. It's highlighting the wrong position handle. I'm thinking this is probably not how it's supposed to be used, otherwise that wouldn't be happening. Can't select that one, but yeah, when I move this one around, you see that the wrong handle is being highlighted. So it might also be that I'm doing this in the wrong spot. I could try moving it out to the GUI method. Maybe that's where it's supposed to be done. That's only going to be showing obviously on scene GUI is not going to work because it's not a editor script. Might need to use a custom inspector. That's probably the answer. Been staring me in the face for a little while probably, but no matter. Yeah, it's the problem with, it's not necessarily a problem I guess, it's just that I jump around a lot from project to project, and most projects are fairly straightforward. It's a lot of work on things like just asset management, just putting assets into scenes and setting things up, fairly basic scripting of different scenarios and things. And you don't do a lot of work with custom inspectors or different editor stuff, and you can sort of fall out of practice, or just stop thinking about it as much, which is a bit of a problem when it comes time to do these videos, because I try to not rush through them so much, but it's I try to step through them pretty quick, and I can get a bit ahead of myself, or sort of what I'm thinking of at any particular time. So I often waste a lot of time, and it frustrates me that there's probably people out there just screaming at their monitors. But yeah, if you just be a little bit patient, my mind will catch up to what I'm trying to do, and it'll all work out. So there's everything working. Those position handles work fine, coming through this on-scene GUI method. So what I'm doing here is a custom inspector for the waypoint curve, and I can do things like, well, not that one is the one that I'm not drawing, but change the color of the lines. So that's super awesome. Okay. Now we need to draw the curve. So the curve is going to be, with control points like that, will be up, like around like that, or something. So we need to actually start visualizing that. So, jumping back to where we're drawing this stuff, draw bezier. You've got a start position, end position, start tangent, end tangent, color, texture 2D, and float width. Alright, fair enough. So the position 0 tangents. I'm guessing these are local to our points, the same as the control points are in the Bezier curve class. So that's cool. What we'll need to do then is we'll just first try it like they're not local and just see what happens. Color will be line color, so that's all good, get rid of that. Let's try putting null in and 1. So we'll see what happens here. Whoa! That looks nothing like what I was hoping it would look like. Interesting. 1 is a world space, I guess. Huh, what is going on there? Anyway, weird. Okay, so endpoint position. So it's having a fun time with this one, isn't it? Doesn't really matter where my endpoint. Oh, yes, it does. Height's mattering. Control points, not so much. Z doesn't seem to matter. Alright. Perhaps it's just for 2 dimensions unless you do something else. Get handle size in the scene view. So what are they doing here? They're going to 0. I'm guessing is there. Up, down. Right. Null and width. Huh. That's interesting. We'll use that. Perhaps. What's in it? Oh. Ah. Still a bit big for my tastes. Anyway, yeah, it's constant size, it's cool. The issue here is that, yeah, it seems to be sort of a 2-dimensional thing, so it's ignoring the Z, so it's just doing X and Y. Yeah, I don't know if I've used handles draw Bezier in a 3D context before, but I thought it worked, but perhaps not. Perhaps it is primarily for 2D, although it does seem like in their example here that's in a 3D context, but it is hard to tell exactly. So let's just try something a little bit different. Let's go to do pretty much what they're doing. Okay, so again, Z seems to be not mattering. You can see that it's getting completely thin when looked down on, so it is built for this perspective, and yeah, perhaps that's not gonna work. I'm gonna put that out there and say it's not gonna work. So instead, what we need to do is create a method, and I don't know if I've already got one in here. No. To draw a line. Draw a curved line. So we'll just do it in this point here at the moment. So void draw bezier curve, and yeah, we'll just carry on with this stuff. That around, and if I like to align that to the far left, and we're just going to draw some straight lines. So I'll put my color back in, and I will drop in int saying line segments, curve segments equals say 20. So what that is going to be sort of the quality of the line. So the more segments in the line, the smoother it will be, and you'll see sort of why that is in a moment. So what I'm going to do is a loop, for loop to the segments, and this is going to be increment. I might go back to here where I had some code for this stuff. It's also going to be useful. So previous curve pos, next curve pos. This sort of concept will work well. So we're going to get. We need a bezier curve. So. Bezier curve. Might just do this as a property at the moment. So if it's null, make a new one. Start point dot position, end point dot position, and position. Man, stretch my fingers or something typing. Okay, so I'm just getting the difference. So the offset control point 1 is from the start point, control point 2 is from end point. I'm just going to return bezier curve. Right on. Remove set. Okay. So I'll need to update this data on the curve occasionally, so I'll just drop in a public update bezier curve. I'll do the same thing here, just grab it so it creates it if it needs to, and then I'll just go, actually that's all I need to do. No, it's not. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. No. And it's the probably easiest way I can think of to do it. That'll do. Whatevs. Nah, whatever, that's crap too. I'll just do it. Just do it. Alright. Curve.p0 equals start point dot position 1, 2, 3. This messed up. Okay. Almost there, almost through this Bezier curve stuff. Okay, very good. So I'll just go back to good old here and do if GUI dot changed target curve dot update Bezier curve. Alright, cool. Now when we draw the fella, we're going to do curve dot p0. Yep, that's right on. And next point, curve dot get point on curve increment. Start at 1. Right. Start at 1, start at 0, next point on curve. Already got it there. Alright. Okay. Here we go. Next point on curve equals, next curve was, is curve dot point on get point on curve, and it's going to be increment times I. So what increment is, this just saves us doing a divide each time, that sort of thing. So what I'm getting is 1 divided by 20 in this case, 20 being our number of segments, so that will change depending on what it is. So let's open up the old calculator and we go 1 divided by 20, that's 0.05, right? So every time we step through this loop we're adding on 0.05 to t. And I could do that another way, I could just add on increment each time. Let's do that. T equals 0. T plus equals increment. So that might be a slightly faster way of going about it. So next curve point is going to be 0.05, next time it will be 0.1, then 0.15, and so forth. So what we're going to do is draw a line between the previous point, which starts at the start of the line, start point, and this point. And then we're going to set previous point to next, and we'll do this 20 times. So after 20 times we'll come in here and 0.05 times 20 will be 1. So finally it'll be t equal to 1, and then we go get point on curve at 1, which will give us the end point, which is p1. So all we need to do now is just do that line. So it's going to do a simple draw line between previous point and next point, and that's it. So for 20 segments, we're drawing little lines, each one moving around the curve, and that's a fairly optimized way of doing it, with that storing of the previous point and that sort of thing, and calculating sort of what you need. I might just, well, I think if I still have it open. No, I don't. Oh, okay. Scene. Alright, so what we want to see is draw Bezier curve. We're expecting to see a curve drawn. We are seeing nothing. So that's no good. Next one, curve, blah, 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 blah. Right. Which means probably our Bezier curve is not correct. So we said, hey curve, what's up? Curve is null. Let's give us a new one. Set Bezier curve to all this stuff. Let's also make this public and set it to non-serialized. We'll just make sure it updates by moving stuff. Okay, so I think that should set GUI changed. So at this point we should have a curve going around like this, like that. We don't. So start point, end point, control point 2. So we have control points are local, which by default is true. Right, so our code here for calculating constants assumes they're true, and unless I say otherwise, so that's fine. Get points on curve. You got handle one. Ah, okay, I was mistaken. These are all very crappily commented. Yeah, that was silly. Okay, so I'm going to take a knife to that Bezier curve class at some point and just rewrite it, make it a bit easier to comprehend. Anyway, that's not going to really help us too much. So P1, P2. Just double check. So CP1, CP2 is P1, P2. Yep. Huh. Now, considering I'm sitting around 0, 0, 0, I think I would see something if there was going to be something, even if I was, off a bit and I had something wrong with my Bezier curve stuff. If it was drawing something, I'd imagine it would be drawing it around 0, 0, 0. So it seems like it's probably not actually drawing anything. So draw Bezier curve, whatever. Increment is 1f divided by curve segments, t plus increment. So let's just see if it's actually doing all this stuff. Log out t. Okay, you can see here it's stepping through t, adding 0.05 each time, so that's correct. Unfortunately, we're not getting our line. So let's see what those previous and next curve points are. they're the same every time. Okay, so go curve dot p0, curve dot p3. They're different, so that's something. Okay. Let's just check some other things, and we'll use this get length to so get point of curve. I'm assuming that that is a 0 to 1. I'd be surprised if I had something that was 0 to 100. But I guess anything's possible. Let's do a test by moving the second point, which is point B over here, so that's point A over there, that's point B. Shove him way over here. Okay, nothing. Alright, so what were we seeing? T was getting set correctly, but next curve pos was not. So we'll log out T. That T is equal to that curve position. Alright, jumping into the console. Yeah, it seems like no matter what the T is, it gives us the start point. It's no good. Just log out more stuff, and we'll just see if we can pick up where the error is happening. Start point, end point, and we'll log out the control points. Control points are correct. Okay. What if we instead made T 100? Still gives the same result. Seems like our get point on curve method is just not working properly. Let me see if I can find another Bezier curve method or class somewhere and to see if there's an issue with this one. Actually, just having a look at this other one here, which is the same one apparently. Just having a look through and noticed that the get length calls get point on curve, so let's see if get length works. No. Okay. Interesting. Okay. We have a look for another curve. I'll just pause this for a sec. Okay. Alright. I was having a look through some other code that used similar stuff before, and I realised my problem: not calling calculate constants, which is just an optimization that you only need to call. So you only need to call that when the curve changes, making subsequent calls to things like get point on curve and get length faster, because the constants, which is sort of a large part of the Bezier curve calculations, doesn't need to change. So you do that once, and then you can use those in things like the get point on curve, speed everything up a bit. So I think that'll work. So tried that, no avail. Just checked that my T was a proper float. Anyway, there we go. Now we have something. It's not quite right, but it's something, so we can work from here. Alrighty, that looks like curve. Bring this guy in. I think, yeah, I don't know if my constants are being updated properly or something's not going right. That looks like it might just be inverted. Something is amiss. So which one is A? A is that guy, B is this guy. Alright. It's quite odd, isn't it? That's quite strange. Let's try, instead of doing all of this, might make more sense to instead just go false. Alright, let's go into the control point, not the so you got start point, end point, control point 1, control point 2, which is correct. Oops. Yep. Okay. That's more like it. Alright, so now we have a Bezier curve. It's got 20 lines curve segments. We can see we can reduce that, reduce the quality of it, and increase it to increase the quality. So I'll just leave that around 20. Yep, that's all good. Tried to sneeze, but I coughed instead. I think that might help, but it didn't. I still need to sneeze. Okay. So we have our waypoint curve working. Now we've got a waypoint path. Let's duplicate that curve. Shift it over. Might so one additional issue now is curves need to share a point, which is fine, but how to handle that, you know, I've built this so quickly that you know, really have made a mistake in, and also need to just seriously get in here and let's remove that for one. Get in here and just get rid of these guys. If Nice to make them a different color or smaller or something. Okay. So on scene GUI, do a on focus. Is that a thing that works for? Let's have a look. Repaint might work. Not repaint. Need a you get on scene GUI or preview GUI. No. Let's do this for the moment. At least this way, when we move it around, don't have to do too much to get the curve updated. Or do we? Apparently we do. See, the curve is not updating when we move that object. This is a really boring episode. It's just taking a while. Anyway, these things happen. Let's I'm not too concerned about that either. I'm just whatever. I'm gonna chuck a button in there for the moment. See, the plus side of building something that you're only going to be using yourself in a project like this is that you don't need to worry too much about usability and making sure it's all perfect in all circumstances, because it doesn't matter. I know how to use it and how to deal with any of its eccentricities. So I can move this, and it's just the waypoint curve on inspector GUI, draw default inspector, that on inspector GUI. Need to override it, maybe. No, so that's probably why that wasn't working before when I thought it would have. It wasn't using override. I have an issue with this inspector. I wonder if it's... I can't seem to click anything. Click these, click that. Can't click the button. Anyway. Not a big deal. Alright, so that's that. So the next step is curves need to share a point. So we'll go to our waypoint path. What we'll do is I'm just going to assume that they do. I'm not going to worry about if they don't for the moment. Right, exactly. Because they don't need to. They don't need to, necessarily. What we want is public float, no, vector 3, get points on path. It's going to take T. Right, so I've got my bunch of curves. So Now t is an interesting thing. So t would typically be, it's like a 0 to 1. It's like a percentage, but a curve can be longer than another curve. So I need to either handle that or not. So what I mean by that is, if I have this curve, let me just hook them up. Delete point A. Instead, it will use point B from that one. So if I've got this curve here, which is much shorter than this curve, at the moment 0.5, if I just went 0.5 sorry, t in the get point on path, so this entire thing, both these curves being a path combined, if I said, well, 0 to 0.5 is the first curve and 0.5 to 1 is the second curve, then 0.5 on the path is this point here, even though that's not halfway through the path. Right? So instead I could go and, well, get the length of this one, get the length of that one, and from there determine, well, this path's length constitutes X% of the total path, and therefore this point is X distance along the path, and so it's actually 0.3 or something, and 0.5 is over here. Not going to worry about that for the moment. For now, just to get this episode moving along a bit faster, we're just going to do it as I was initially saying, where that will be 0.5. So what we need to do is see how many curves we have, and then find which curve we're looking at based on t. So if t is less than 0.5 and there's two curves, then we're looking at curve 1, and then what t within that curve we're looking for. Okay, so what we're going to do is float just do something. 1f divided by curves dot length float curve well, it's probably curve index equals 0f t remainder equals t for while t remainder is greater than t remainder minus equals n curves curve index plus and t is equal to t remainder divided by n curves. Okay, thought being, well, let's just use the case of the two curves. 1f divided by 2 is 0.5, remainder t, so say we go for 0.6, so t is 0.6, curve index is 0, so 0.6 is greater than 0.5, 0.6 minus 0.5 is 0.1, curve index plus 0.1 is not greater than 0.5, greater than equals. So 0.1 is an index of 1, and then t equals 0.1 divided by 0.5, which is 0.2. So we're saying it's 0.2, 20% through the second curve, which is correct. That works in the case of two curves. Whether it works in the case of more curves, we'll find out shortly, I guess. So we want to do return curves get point, up, curves, index, get point, Jesus, get curve, dot, get, oh my god, finally, T, okay, that's the point on path, T, so, sweet. Easiest way to test this out is all this right. Valid. Okay. 0 in, yep, fair enough. Okay, so we're going to make a quick little path follower. Called path walker. Public path, what do we call it? Waypoint path. Path to walk. Update. T equals 0. Public float speed equals 1. T equals C equals time dot delta time times speed. If T is greater than 0f, T, oh, look at this. While T is greater than 0f, T minus equals 1f. And then, transform, we'll do this transform optimization. And set its position to path to walk. Make sure path to walk is not null before we do all this. Wow. Ah. What a path T. Hey. Got a couple stop hitting the wrong buttons. Alright, and okay, I like it. So it's just going to loop around. It's not going to go back and forth, not going to ping pong, but it's just going to start again from the start if it hits the end. We could easily ping pong as well if we wanted to. And that's that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is quickly, while I think of it, jump back to my template. And so what I'll do is close that. Open it up in here, do the line endings, save that, copy that, Unity, editor, data, resources, script templates, drag this guy back in, and we're going to do that, grab this, drop it there, delete that, whoops, delete that, delete all of this, save that. Alright, that's our script template sorted again. I'm going to copy that one and drop it into somewhere else just so next time I don't have to do all that stuff again. Okay, path walker, so that should be working, I reckon. Let's make a cube and drop on path walker, drop on the path, which I believe is nowhere. Waypoint path, curve 1, curve 2, cube, path walker, and path. Alright, what's our cube doing? He's moving, but where is he moving to? He's doing something, but I think he's working in some sort of different space than our stuff here. It's coming in to do any sort of dip. What if we start doing that? Right, that's odd. So what we expected was, or what I expected, was that he would follow this. Path. So it's probably not an error in this area because it is getting a point on curve. So yeah, buttons work. Alright, curve 1 here. What we got? It's got a weird position that shouldn't matter. We're dealing in world space for everything, as far as I know. So in waypoint curve, what is this asking for? It's asking the it's asking the, well, that's the bezier curve, right? Get point on curve T. Right. Which is what the drawing of the curve asks for. So where it draws it is in world space. This is all world space stuff. Perhaps we should just make sure that that's happening. Definitely hitting the start point at the end. So that's odd. Jump back to path, waypoint path. Let's go one curve. Bring this in. Okay, so this seems to be all curve 1. Alright, so where's it starting from? This is not the greatest episode of Every Semicolon, I must admit. Well, maybe there's, these episodes happen. These things take time, but you know what? Next episode, I'm going to do something more graphically interesting. I think shaders or maybe some more particles or something. But I mean, this sort of episode needs to happen. And unfortunately, I definitely could have got this from the asset store, or could have used even an old system, but it's much better than this one and works fine. I just didn't. Anyway, useful learning for everyone involved, mainly me. Alright, let's fix this up. What's going wrong? This transformed up position, path to walk, get point on path T. Get point on curve T. Okay, negatives. Did everyone else see that oh no. So T starts at 0, while T is greater than... I apologise to everyone for that. Wow, alright, for that's awesome. I can't believe I just did that. Anyway, not too long wasted. So we add the second curve back to the path. Should be trucking along, bounce up that one, shoot down, blam. Alright, that's cool. Let's try adding one more curve and just make sure that our code works. A treat. This one I think must be the new one. So point B, start point. Move the whole thing. Update, and just move some of this over a bit. Okay. Path, blam, play. Okay. Trucks long. Cool. So I can link that up and have it loop around if I wanted, by just dropping in point A as the end point, update Bezier curve, and now you'll just see it loop around, and I might just jump in here and I'll jump into this one, change this control point so it a bit nicer maneuver there. Cool. Alright, that all works. Well, that was fun. Okay, let's jump back to level 01. Save that. So I might not want to go too much further now with this. Because to get the camera moving around, I'll need to do some updates to the camera manager, probably just to handle the camera being in a state where it follows the path walk around, doesn't try to whip to one of those points near the weapons. So that'll be something maybe for next video, and that gives me that'll be a shorter video probably, or at least the start of it. I can just whip that up and then start looking at something more interesting. I'd love to get some, I don't know, some sort of skulls for the catapult, the voodoo dudes. Get some little skulls, this sort of texture, and start doing some cool like purple wisps of mystic energy smoke stuff coming off them, and get that effect going, looking nice. I think that'll be awesome. And then shoot a whole pack of skulls with this purple trail. I think purple is the colour. Purple and green and white go together well. Sort of that mysticy voodoo, if that's the word, sort of colour set, I think. So smash in there, blam, purple things writhing around, just be awesome if we can get something cool going like that. So probably next video. This video was pretty boring, I understand that, but yeah, game development sometimes is. Yeah, so that'll do. It's less than 2 hours, but probably about 2 hours too long. So very good, very good. That was a path system, so I can get a path now for each level for the camera to move around, and yeah, that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching this one. I apologize if it was boring, but I'll try to be, if I have a boring episode, I'll try to spruce up the next one a bit with some more interesting stuff. Yeah, if you have any suggestions on something more interesting to do, I'd love to. Shaders, sounds, graphical stuff. I'm going to look into fragmentation of blocks for the future. I think that's something that needs to be done to make this game more than what it is now. Blocks and fragments, particularly splintering wood. If we're going to put wood in there, it's going to need to splinter, it's going to need to crack. So I'm going to maybe look into that for future episodes. Maybe do some prototyping and we'll have a look at if we can come up with some interesting stuff there, if it's predefined or if there's some sort of dynamic fracturing. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So suggestions on cool stuff you want to see to avoid another episode like this anytime soon, please do. And look, I'm going to start trying to get the website going, getting everysemicolon.com to get going. I'm going to maybe look at, as I've talked about before, building this brand a little bit, when I have time to start doing some more stuff, and yeah, Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to start trying to get this stuff going, because we're going to need to, an audience is necessary if we're going to head on into any sort of Kickstarter stuff, or we're trying to build some bigger projects and build some cooler stuff and want to get some support. So yeah, I'm gonna be probably pushing some of that stuff a bit more, and I'll try to have other stuff going on outside of just these videos. So if I'm a little bit lax on getting these videos done in time, or if we've got some bit of a gap between videos, then hopefully there's some other stuff I can put out there in the meantime, to show updates on other projects, and probably thoughts on just things in game development in general, and maybe some articles and tutorials and that sort of thing. And also keep an eye out, hopefully soon, Advanced Surface Shaders 2.0 will be available, so if you own that, then please update. And it's got a shader generator in it now, so it's quite different. It supports thousands of different types of shaders. You can just do anything you want really with all the shader effects now, so that's cool. And yeah, keep an eye out for on the Unity forum or the YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you want to keep up to date on these and other stuff that we do, because I normally post at least one video per project when a decent update comes out, or when the new version's coming out, just to show features. So yeah, there'll be some cool stuff on the asset store soon that I think most developers in Unity will find very useful. Okay, that'll do. Episode 21 done. A bit under 2 hours. Yeah, 22 will be. It's going to be a kick-ass episode. It's going to be exciting. It'll be fireworks, maybe literally. I'll put some fireworks in just for fun. I don't know. It'll be more interesting than this. It'll be graphically more pleasing and less boring. And I'll try not to make as many mistakes in my coding next time, so that I don't just sit there twiddling my thumbs thinking, what have I done wrong, and then have to go through my code and find the one character that was typed wrong, or the wrong number or something like that. Okay, that'll do. Thanks a lot, guys.